Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on orders over $10. From Saturday, July 3rd through Monday, July 5th, Flipside Gaming is holding their Independence Day weekend sale. A number of products have been reduced in price, plus you can still use the HEROES promo code on those orders over $10 to get even bigger savings. Check out the description below for the link and the details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, and we have a lot to talk about today. First off, Modern Horizons 2 still the key driver for cards moving in the secondary market right now. Obviously, that set really did shake up Modern and some other formats to some degree too, and there's many players scrambling to build decks. Things are changing by the day, and we are seeing card prices go up in a lot of cases, and in some cases go back down. Beyond that, there's other things happening in the secondary market. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms cards have been previewed all week. They're having a little bit of an impact on some cards too. We'll get into all the details in just a moment, but before we get started, just a quick reminder, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use that Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. This weekend, Flipside Gaming is holding their Independence Day weekend sale. They discounted a number of products, including a whole bunch of Strixhaven and Modern Horizons 2 products. And if you go to the website and you want to pick up any of these products, you can still apply the Heroes promo code to get an additional 10% off the already discounted price, which is pretty cool if you're trying to pick up any of these things. The Magic items in particular that have been discounted are on the screen there, and you can also see how much they go down to once you apply the Heroes promo code. So I hope that helps some people out this weekend. Remember, orders over $100, or if your order only consists of singles, shipping is still free in the United States as well. And whenever you use the promo code, yes, it does support the channel, which does go a really long way. So thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We're going to begin with that standard legal spotlight. So a couple things. Again, the threshold for the video this week is $2. We're not going to be talking about anything moving less than $2 up or down. Also, we're staying away from those cards that have been severely market manipulated. Let's see what's happening, though, in standard. Grim Tutor, this is the one from Starter 1999. It goes down $2.90 this week to $102.50, and this card has been soft ever since it got reprinted in Core Set 2021. It is a tutor, though, and it does continue to see Commander play in various builds, old and new. Korvold, Faker's King, the copy from the list. It goes down $3.37 this week to $21.49. This was only part of the list during the Keldheim set. This copy is going down after some recent increases. You'll find this in Pioneer, Jund Sacrifice, and Jund Company. It's also a very popular commander and part of the 99 and a lot of builds there too. Alright, let's look at some cards going up in value. Stormwing Entity up $2.12 to $8.96. This is in standard. Is it aggro? Pioneer, is it prowess? Typically though, you're going to find 4 copies of this in modern. Is it blitz decks? And that's the main reason it's moving as much as it is this week. This also gets a little commander play, but beyond that, there could be some influence here from some of those Adventures in the Forgotten Realms previews as well. We have seen some cards that could lend themselves to supporting Is It Prowess strategies. Here's one example. Demi-Lich. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. This is up $3.90 this week to $28.65. It's in standard Rakdos Sacrifice, Pioneer Rakdos Pyromancer, also Nib to Light and more there. Modern though, you're going to find this in Rakdos mid-range builds. I think again, that's the biggest reason it's moving this week. Jund also plays this in modern many times. Death Shadow builds and more. Also, this gets a little legacy play and some commander play. It is a fairly popular commander, and now it is seeing some additional play around a new card for Modern Horizons 2, Asmarano, Martika Dyston, a Kuldakar. Next, we have Emery, Lurker of the Lock. It goes up $4.98 to $8.90, and this has seen increased modern play now in the very popular Urza's Kitchen deck. This is also still in Urza builds there. Sometimes you see this in Affinity. Additionally, this gets a good amount of legacy play too. And some of the decks that it's in have been influenced by Modern Horizons 2 cards there as well. On top of all that, this is a very popular commander, and in the 99 of a lot of decks there too. And finally in the section we have Tormod's Crypt from Time Spiral. This is going up $5.42 to $10, but this is one of those situations where one particular copy of the card dried up in the secondary market online, and you're seeing a little bit of weird inflation. I'm sure it will go back to normal in a week or two. But with that being said, this actually turns out to be a very good sideboard card in Modern. Also sees Legacy, Vintage, and Commander play in a lot of different builds. And that takes us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. This is where we look at Pioneer Legal cards that are moving the most this week, either up or down. Let's look at the ones losing value first. Smothering Tithe. Okay, this is going down $2.13 this week to $35.97. This is retracting a little after some recent increases, but this is a huge commander card. You see this everywhere, including new builds like Sith's Harvest Hand, for example. As foretold, this goes down $2.17 to $23.37. Now, this card spiked pretty heavily during the Modern Horizons 2 preview time period. A lot of players were speculating that this would see more play in the modern format because of cards from that set. Has that really panned out? Well, you can find this in decks like Glimpse of Tomorrow, Living End, Crashing Footfalls, but more and more I'm seeing that those decks in a lot of cases are taking this card out, and they're just leaning really hard on the Cascade cards. So the meta still has to work itself out. We'll have to see long-term how much play this card actually sees there. But right now, it does stand to reason that it could lose some value, and it could continue to see less play in Modern. It does see some commander play. You'll find this in various builds there. Spirebluff Canal. This is one of those Kaladesh lands that spiked wildly last week, going down just a little bit this week, down $2.39 to $30. Not too unusual to see this after a big spike. This card is showing up in a lot of mana bases, though. In Pioneer, it's in Is It Phoenix and Is It Prowess builds. Modern, you'll find 4 copies of these in a lot of decks there. Some places where it's being run include Blitz, Living End, Is It Delver, Jeskai Stoneblade, Urza's Kitchen, and much more. This is also a great mana-based card in lots of commander builds, including a new one, Yusri Fortune's Flame. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, still going down in value, down $2.52 to $64.89. This is another card that was climbing pretty aggressively not too long ago, so this isn't super surprising. But this does get a good amount of play. Pioneer, it's in Mono Green Ramp. Teamer Energy. Modern, it's in Tron, Eldrazi Tron as well. Legacy, Mono Green Cloudpost. And Commander, this is in Kozilek the Great Distortion, and much more. Crucible of Worlds from 10th edition, down $2.73 to $47.27. This does not see the same amount of play it was seeing a number of months ago. Still, this can show up in some modern sideboards. Legacy, you'll find this in Mono Blue Urza. Vintage, it's in Golos Stacks. And it does continue to see a lot of commander play in Lord Windgrace and much more. And the last card going down in this section is Mox Amber. It goes down $2.77 to $40.25. It was going up last week, retracts some this week. In Modern, you'll find this in Urza's Kitchen builds. It's in 4-color Control. Also in the Wurza builds that are still around too there. On top of that, it has seen increased commander play in Ragavan Nimble Pilferer decks. Alright, here's a Kaladesh land going up in value. Blooming Marsh is still climbing, up $3.33 this week to $16.98. Pioneer, this is in Jund and Abzan Company as well as Jund Sacrifice. Modern, you know, those big meta changes led to a lot of players scrambling to put together decks. They needed mana bases. This card is still going up because of that. Again, there's a lot of decks running 4 copies of this in the format. Some places where you will find this: Yawgmoth's Sacrifice, Hell's Kitchen, Eggs, Jund, The Rock, plus many other builds in the format. And it's in many commander decks too. It's a big mana-based card there, including some new ones like Chatterfang Squirrel General, Grist the Hunger Tide, and Karth the Lion. Blood Crypt, the original copy from Dissension. Now, this is getting a reprint in one of the Culture Shock secret layers, and it was losing value last week. Rebounds this week. It goes up $4.13 to $39.97. And like all Shocklands, you know this is going to see a ton of play. It's in the mana basis for a lot of decks in Pioneer, Modern, and Commander. And finally for this section, we have Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Magic 2015 up $2.81 to $29.25. Ultimate Masters goes up $4.18 this week to $32.27. Remember, this card's partner in crime, especially in Commander, just got reprinted. That is, of course, Cabal Coffers, but this is seeing a lot of play even without Cabal Coffers around. Pioneer, you'll find this in Rakdos Pyromancer, Jund Sacrifice, and more. Modern, it's in Yawgmoth's Sacrifice, Hell's Kitchen, and more there. Also gets Legacy and Vintage play, and like I said, this is a big Commander card as well. You'll find this in new builds too, like Chatterfang and Karth. Plus, it did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week, which could have brought a little more attention to it as well. And that takes us to the Modern Legal Spotlight. Let's see what's happening in the world of Modern. Alright, first we have cards going down in value. Mishra's Bauble. That original Cold Snap copy spiked wildly last week. It goes back down $5.19 to $29.49 though this week. Now, the other copies of this card are a little bit lower than this one still. And I do think as players get their decks built, especially for Modern, you're going to see this continue to cool off. I think even in the comments of last week's video, everybody posted, wow, I have a whole bunch of those. That's usually an indication that people are going to go ahead and start to sell them, and then more inventory is going to enter the marketplace. So I think that's what you're starting to see here. With that being said, though, the card is seeing a ton of play. In Modern, this has always been a good card, but now it's showing up in 4-ofs and countless deck lists there. You'll see this in Mardu Midrange, Blitz, Urza's Kitchen, Is It Delver, Grixis Death's Shadow, Boros Aggro, and much more. This also gets some legacy play too, plus it is a popular commander card. You'll find this in Oscar the Reconstructor and much more there. Sanctum Prelate, this is the one from Conspiracy, Take the Crown. It goes down $5.38 this week to $44.97. Now this was the Modern Horizons 2 Buy a Box promo, making it Modern legal. First, this jumped pretty wildly, even though it was getting the reprint, because people thought this could be a pretty big Modern card. How is that turning out? Well, it is seeing some Modern play, but maybe not as much as some people thought at first. You will find this at times in Humans, Jeskai Stoneblade, Death and Taxes, and more. It continues to see legacy play in Death and Taxes, sometimes Maverick. Also, it can show up in Commander builds at times as well. Celestial Ancient, this one is from the list, just got added with Modern Horizons 2. It goes down $6.03 to $12.51 as it tries to find its price point. I'm sure it's going to lose more value in the coming weeks as well. Now, this does see Commander play in enchantment-heavy builds at times, including the new one, Sithis. Greater Oromancy, this spiked a couple weeks back. Again, it was a pretty dramatic spike. This week it goes down $6.51 to $79.97. Now, one of the reasons it spiked as much as it did was because of Modern Horizons 2 making a new Modern Enchantress build possible. Also, it's a popular commander card in enchantment-heavy builds as well, and it started getting more play there because of Sithis Harvest Hand in that format. Speaking of cards that spiked pretty heavily, this one went up a lot last week, goes down $8.62 to $26.88 this week. This is Geralf's Messenger. In Modern, this is in the Yawgmoth Sacrifice deck, which is why it spiked. This is also in many Yawgmoth Thran Physician builds in Commander and other decks there as well. And the last card going down in value is Cabal Coffers, the copy from Torment. It goes down $11.97 this week to $66.62. Last week we saw the Planechase copy going down. It's a little more stable this week. This one, though, lost a lot of value. And like I mentioned earlier, this did get reprinted in Modern Horizons 2. Now, that did make it Modern legal, but it's not seeing a ton of Modern play. I did see this in an Orzhov Reanimation deck that was running around, but that deck hasn't really taken off yet. But for the most part, the extra copies of this in the marketplace was just good news for Commander players that haven't had a chance to pick it up yet. As you know, this is a fantastic Commander card, getting additional play now around some new Commanders from Modern Horizons 2, Chatterfang and Karth, as well as Asmarano, Martika, Dyston, Akuldakar. Alright, first card going up in value is Shizo Death Storehouse from Champions of Kamigawa. This goes up $13.44 to $31.33 this week. So at the start of the week, we saw a card that was part of this cycle spike. That was Shinka the Blood-Soaked Keep. Spoiler alert, we'll be looking at that one in just a few moments. Now that jumped because it plays well with Ragavan Nimble Pilfer and a lot of Modern builds, including Rakdos Midrange, which is pretty popular, doing very well. Shortly after that, I think players decided to try this card out. It started to creep into these Rakdos midrange builds too. Then this one followed suit and jumped up. Not quite as much as the previous one, but it is beginning to spike pretty aggressively as well. So this is a harder to find card in good condition. It's older, obviously. And I do think for the most part it just dried up naturally in the marketplace. But there could be at least a little element of speculation fueling this as well. As people started to see this show up in those decks, they might have tried to jump in, grab some copies to flip. We'll have to see what this does in the coming weeks, and we'll also have to see how well it does perform in Modern. Black Cleave Cliffs from Scars of Meriden. It goes up $15.25 this week to $40.46. Yet another land card, seeing more play in Modern. You'll find this in Rakdos Midrange there, Jund, and more. Also, this is getting more Commander play now in Asmarano, Martika, Dyston, Akuldakar. Shattering Spree, another big spike here. Guild packed up $9.83 to $15. The copy from the Guilds of Ravnica Is It Guild Kit goes up $10.91 to $14.97, and the Mystery Booster copy goes up $16.17 to $19.95. This is becoming a huge Modern sideboard card ever since Modern Horizons 2 came out. This new Modern meta has more decks that are leaning harder on artifacts compared to the previous one, This is good against builds like Urza's Kitchen, Hell's Kitchen, Affinity, Hardened Scales, and more. Also, this continues to see play in Legacy and Vintage. Plus, it does get some Commander play too in builds old and new. Many times you'll see this in fast mono red builds that don't rely on mana rocks as much, like Ragavan, for example. Here's another Scars of Meriden land going up in value. This is Dark Slick Shores. It goes up $27.96 this week to $49. And of course, this is another card that's getting more play in this new modern format. Part of mana bases like Urza's Kitchen. I think that deck is the key driver for this week. It's also in Mill, Ad Nauseam, and more there. This also gets some Commander play as well in Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow and more. Now here's the last card in the section, and we did already discuss why it was going up in value a few moments ago. This is Shinka the Blood-Soaked Keep. It goes up $38.09 to $47.99 this week. Alright, time for the Vintage Spotlight. There's still a lot of market manipulation out there, not as much as we were seeing a number of months ago, but still, be careful if you're making any big purchases. The prices you see in this section are very similar to what you might find on a price tracking website. And you have to remember that things are changing in the vintage market. More and more cards are being graded and sold at higher prices, especially from those early sets. So when you see a price, typically it falls in between a high-grade raw and a high-grade graded copy. Now in this section, if I see a value that's leaning more towards high-grade raw or high-grade graded, I will point that out to you. Or if I'm seeing some dramatic market manipulation, I'll point that out as well. First, we have Lord of the Pit from Unlimited. Now, all the cards in white border that you're going to see in this section are all from Unlimited today, so I won't keep pointing that out. But this is going up $15.58 to $84.57. This is a great example of a card that is not on the reserve list. It's been reprinted a number of times, but collectors want those old original copies. They want to get them graded, maybe even sell them back to you at a higher price. Argothian Enchantress, the Urza Saga copy, goes up $16.18 to $59.47. The Eternal Masters copy goes up $17.86 to $59.95. Now, this is in Legacy Enchantress, and that is a deck that got a push from Modern Horizons 2 cards. In the last week or so, I'm seeing that deck show up less and less. We'll have to see if that changes long term. This does, however, get more Commander play. You'll find this in those Sithis builds. Additionally, we did see a preview card from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Galea, Kindler of Hope. This could push some of the enchantment-focused cards a little bit that we saw already moving because of Modern Horizons 2. However, when you look at all of the previews we've seen so far, it feels like that set is maybe a little more focused on equipment than it is auras or enchantments. We'll have to kind of see how the rest of the previews go, though. Beyond that, Argothian Enchantress also got a mention on the Command Zone podcast this week. That also could have brought some attention to the card. First reserve list card of the day, as you can see from the upper right-hand corner, this is Hellfire. It goes up $29.54 to $225. Dark Pact, it goes up $37.36 to $97.25. Pyramids up $40.40 to $415.60. Web is up $44.01 to $68.50. Elephant Graveyard goes up $52.49 to $499.99. Force Field up $58.60 to $661. Fungasaur, this is up $75.56 to $119.99. Ali from Cairo up $82.49 to $877.49. Scrubland is up $179.99 to $879.99. Raging River up $194.94 to $377.48. And Tropical Island, this goes up $238.56 to $1,759.99. Is that for real? I have seen high-grade raw copies sell for about $1,500 to $1,600. Stands to reason next time a high-grade graded copy sells, most likely it will go for more than this. Singing Tree, in theory, up $300.02 to $1,199.97. I do think this price is a little inflated. High-grade raw copies sell for about $275, graded for about $760, $770 right now. Demonic Hordes. Okay, this one's a little weird. It's going up $491.54 to $544.99. Now, I did see that the last graded copy of this sold for about $900, but that felt like an outlier, maybe even a false sale. High-grade raw copies can hit about $100. We'll have to kind of see what happens with this one. I do think it will go back down. When you get to these real expensive cards, typically they're just moving based on the grades that are for sale that given week. Eureka goes up $513.95 to $1,399.95. And Time Walk goes up $737.50 to $4,737.50. That takes us to the best of the rest, and sure, this is the Commander Spotlight in disguise. All the cards you're going to see in this section are moving, at least in part because of Commander. Don't forget that that's still a huge format. Modern, though, does have a little more influence right now, and that's why I changed the title of this section. You are seeing more and more cards moving, at least in the short term, because of the Modern shakeup. So I wanted to make the title a little broader. Regardless, though, let's see what's happening. Endurance, one of those cards from Modern Horizons 2. It goes up 208 this week to 2325. This is appearing already in a number of Modern builds, including 5-color Elementals, Yawgmoth Sacrifice, sometimes Amulet Titan, and more. In Legacy, this is already in many Snow Miracles decks, Knight of the Reliquary, and more there. Plus, it gets some Vintage and Commander play too. On top of that, it got a Command Zone podcast mention as well this week. Savor the Moment up 208 to 2450. Is this a Shadowmoor rare that's yet to be reprinted? I think it is. And I should take this opportunity before I run out of time to use my one per video. Yes, during this time period in Magic, there was a recession in the game. Less packs were cracked. So these rares, especially if they have not been reprinted, when they get a little attention on them, they can get spiky. Why are people paying attention to this one now? Well, it is in the Modern Taking Turns deck. Also, this sees a little Commander play too. Temporal Manipulation, the copy from Portal 2nd Age. This particular one is a little dry online this week. It does get some Commander play in various builds. It goes up 212 to 5810. Ashes of the Fallen, this goes up 216 to $10, getting increased Commander play in Grist the Hunger Tide. This works very well with Grist, also works well with a card that was reprinted in Modern Horizons 2, Patriarch's Bidding. Muro Regery, we have been seeing the dual deck copy going up in value. Now the Lorwyn copy is jumping a little more. It goes up $2.21 to $8.89. You'll find this one in Modern Merfolk, and it has seen increased Commander play in Felon of Sea and Sky. Twilight Mire, the Double Masters copy this time, going up $2.23 to $11.25. This is part of the mana base of Yawgmoth Sacrifice in Modern. Also, this is a big Commander mana base card as well, seeing more play now in new builds like Chatterfang, Karth, and Grist. Nature's Will, this goes up $2.25 to $30.79. Popular Commander card in Najeela the Blade Blossom decks and more. Aethersworn Canonist, this is the Double Masters copy, up $2.27 to $7.66. Seeing more play now in Modern Affinity. Also, this is in Legacy Artifact Aggro, another deck that really became possible because of Modern Horizons 2. This is also found in other Legacy decks like Death and Taxes, and it has been seeing increased Commander play in Zabaz the Glimmerwasp. Ensnaring Bridge, the original Stronghold copy, climbing up a little bit here. It goes up $2.32 to $30.63. There are typically 4 of these in those new Modern Eggs builds. This is also found in Tron builds and more in that format. Additionally, this sees Legacy, Vintage, and even Commander play. And it has been seeing a little more Commander play now in Karth and Chatterfang builds. Winds of Change, that Portal copy, it just keeps creeping up. It goes up $2.43 this week to $80.46. Although if I pulled this price at the exact same time this week as I did last week, it may have fallen off. It does feel like it's been pretty stable. Now, this continues to stay dry online. It does get a good amount of Commander play in Nekusar the Mindraiser and more. Elvish Piper, here's another example of a card that has one particular copy that stays dry. The 9th edition copy goes up $2.46 this week to $14.99. This is a solid Commander card. You'll find this in Arixmithy, Slumbering Isle, and more. Birds of Paradise, the 10th edition copy, a little dry this week. It goes up $2.51 to $18.45. Sometimes you'll find this in Modern Yawgmoth Sacrifice or some other builds in that format. Also, it gets a little Legacy play, but it does get a whole lot of Commander play. Even more so now in builds around Lannis Cryptozoologist, Chatterfang, Sithis, and Karth. Mitotic Slime, this is the copy from Plane Chase Anthology. It goes up $2.68 to $4.25. Now, this is getting increased Commander play in Chatterfang decks. Also, it's showing up in some Ave Progenitor Ooze builds there too. But another reason this could be starting to climb ties back into the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms previews. Looks like there's at least some support for Ooze there. Here's a couple of examples: Gelatinous Cube and Ochre Jelly. Replenish, another card that plays very well in those enchantment-heavy Commander builds, including Sithis. This goes up $2.69 to $127.99. Terror, the copy from the Battle Royale box set. This is another example of a particular copy dry online this week. Gets a little Commander play. It goes up $2.79 to $5.18. Another Shadowmoor rare. This is Wheel of Sun and Moon. It goes up $2.87 to $34.56. And this is getting increased Commander play in Sithis. Plus, it did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week. Tainted Pact, the copy from Odyssey. This lost a lot of value due to its reprinting as a Strixhaven Mystical Archive card, but this week it does rebound just a little bit, up $291 to $47.92. Very good commander card that has seen some additional play at times in Garth One-Eye decks. Temporary Truce, this is back on the list. It goes up $292 to $29.33. This sees a little commander play, but we have a portal card here that's yet to be reprinted, and hard to find in high grade. Auriok Champion from 5th Dawn. We saw this card spiking pretty aggressively not too long ago. Then it began to come down. Now it looks like it's maybe starting to stabilize. It goes up $316 this week to $59.49. This might be getting a little less play in this new modern meta compared to the previous one, but you're still going to find this in a lot of places. Heliod Company, Humans, Death and Taxes, Orzhov Stoneblade, and more. Also sees a little commander play too. Mana Vault, the revised copy, up $321 this week to $83.39. Solid vintage card, highly played commander card and combo enabler in that format. You'll find this in Urza Lord High Artificer and much more there. Also got a Tolarian Community College mention this week. Edakar Waste, this is the copy from 10th edition, up $322 to $20.82. These ally Painlands typically only see play in Commander, but they do get a good amount of it there. This one, though, occasionally will show up in Modern in a build here or there. Utopia Sprawl, the one from Dissension, up $331 to $19.18. This is seeing a lot of play now in Modern. It's an Enchantress. I do think that's the deck that's pushing the price the most right now. Also in Nib to Light, Heliod Company, Gruul Midrange, and more. Very popular commander card too, seeing more play in builds like Sithis, Chatterfang, and Ave. Tezzeret Agent of Bolas from Scars of Mirrodin. It goes up $353 to $16.19. Now in Modern, this is showing up in sideboards of Urza's Kitchen, and I do think that's the main reason it's spiking like this week. But it also is seeing more commander play now and some Garth builds. Also, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms appears to have a pretty strong treasure token strategy going on there. Check out some examples. Here's 10 cards on the screen. You got a couple legendary creatures in the top left corner, all tied into the treasure token strategy in some way, shape, or form. And we've just begun looking at previews. This Tezzeret could become better in the future, at least in Commander, if nowhere else. Fiery Islet, this goes up $361 to $24.99. In Modern, you'll find this in Blitz. I think that's the main reason it's jumping the way it is. Also, though, it's in Izzet Delver, Burn, and much more. On top of that, it does get a little Legacy play and some Commander play, getting more play now in Commander and Yes rebuilds. Cavern of Souls, Modern Masters 2017, up $246 to $87.78. Evison Restored goes up $367 to $92.90. And the copy from the list goes up $373 to $86.96. That copy joined the list with Keldheim. In Modern, this is in Amulet Titan, Humans, Merfolk, Eldrazi, Tron, 5-color Elemental, Spirits, much more too. Additionally, it gets Legacy play and a little Vintage play, but of course, you know, this is a highly played Commander card. It's in a lot of different builds, including some new ones, like Chatterfang and Ave. This could be getting a push from those creatures that became Phyrexian creatures not too long ago. Plus, it did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week, too. Sliver Legion from Future Sight. This has been losing value due to the reprinting and Time Spiral Remastered. This week, though, it bounces back a little bit, up $4 to $75.08. Many times you'll find this as a commander in a Commander Sliver deck, or it can also be part of the 99. Lord of Atlantis, a couple copies still going up. 7th edition up $230 to $17.87. The 5th edition one is going up $409 to $1,700. This is in Modern as well as Legacy Merfolk decks. Both of those to some degree got pushed by Modern Horizons 2, and this is seeing increased commander play in Svelin. Norwood Priestess from Portal 2nd Age, yet to be reprinted, hard to find online in good condition. It jumps up again, $434 this week to $138.86. Sees a little commander play. Sword of Feast and Famine, the one from the Modern event deck. It goes up $441 this week to $72.47. This does appear in Modern Stoneblade builds. Most frequently, you see this one in the Jeskai decks. Also, it's been getting more commander play now in Ragavan builds. Plus, I have seen this in some early deck lists around a card from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. That card is Xanathar, Guild Kingpin. On top of that, this did get a Command Zone podcast mention as a card that might be good to play in Commander with Xanathar. Wheel of Fortune from Revised, it creeps up $449 this week to $390.47. Popular commander card, getting more play now in Ragavan and Garth. Also, this did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week too. Ren and 6, the copy from the list, it goes up $459 to $100.36. This did leave the list after Kjell time. In Modern, you'll find this in a lot of places: Nib to Light, Scape Shift, Taking Turns, Jund, Gruul Midrange, and more. This also gets a good amount of commander play in Lord Windgrace and more there, and I've seen this in some Garth builds now too. Cryptic Command, 2 copies. Lorwyn up $448 to $36.03. Modern Masters up $465 to $36. That copy from the list that had that egregious market manipulation finally has gone back to normal. Hopefully that will last. In Modern, though, you'll find this in Jeskai Stoneblade, Control builds, Crashing Footfalls, and more. This is also in a number of commander builds, including Telran Sky Summoner. Carpet of Flowers, the one from Mystery Booster, it goes up $471 this week to $36.67. This continues to be a popular option in Legacy, and this is seeing increased commander play now in Sithis and Garth One-Eye. Sword of Fire and Ice, Modern Masters up $423 to $63.99. Darksteel goes up $473 to $59.99. This is in Modern Stoneblade decks, Death and Taxes. Legacy, it's also in Death and Taxes there and more. And it has seen increased commander play in Ragavan as well as Zabaz builds. Bruvak, the Grandiloquent, it did join the list with Modern Horizons 2, and this copy is trying to find its price point. It goes up $564 this week to $28. Very popular commander card, and in the 99 of many builds there too. Glimmer Void, that Modern Masters copy is still going up. It jumps $596 this week to $1941. You'll find this in Modern Eggs, Affinity, and Urza builds. It has seen increased commander play too in Zabaz as well as Garth. Sulphurous Springs, yet another one of these ally pain lands. 9th edition up $231 to $1336. 10th edition goes up $612 to $2673. Epic Struggle, getting more commander play in Chatterfang Squirrel General decks. It goes up $631 to $1999. Ragavan Nimble Pilfer, another card from Modern Horizons 2. This is going up $657 this week to $80.55. Pretty popular card. It's in Modern Mardu Midrange. Is it Spells, Jeskai Stoneblade, Urza's Kitchen, and much more. Legacy, you'll find this in Is It Delver and more there. Starting to see some vintage play now too, and it is quickly becoming a very popular commander. Plus it shows up in the 99 of a lot of decks there as well. Crime and Punishment up $6.77 to $7.90. This is yet to be reprinted, so once it started seeing more modern play, it kind of just took off. You'll find this one in the popular Yawgmoth Sacrifice deck, sometimes also in the Rock, plus it can see a tad bit of commander play too. Valakut the Molten Pinnacle from Zendikar up $788 to $36.98. This is in Modern, Amulet Titan, Scape Shift, 4-color ramp, see some Legacy play too, and getting additional commander play now in Ragavan builds. Stoneforge Mystic, we see World Weight going up $347 to $78.76. Double Masters up $811 to $79. Of course, Stoneblade builds have been doing very well in this new Modern meta. The Orzhov one has been seeing the most play currently, followed closely though by Jeskai. This is also in Hammer Time, Death and Taxes, and more. Legacy, you'll find it in Death and Taxes there too. Maverick, Stoneblade builds, and other decks there. This also gets a good amount of commander play in Sir Gwen, Hero of Ashvale, and many other decks as well. Plus, it could be seeing more play in the future. I mentioned earlier that Adventures in the Forgotten Realms had some equipment-focused preview cards. Here's 2 Boros cards that support equipment. Now, they did preview some others that weren't as flashy, but check these out. Brunner Battlehammer and Fighter Class. Some of these previews may be pushing Stoneforge or some of the other equipment cards that we saw in today's video to a degree. Kataki War's Wage. Now this is moving for the same reasons that Shattering Spree is moving, which we discussed earlier. This is a good modern sideboard option for decks running white instead of red. Also sees a little vintage and some commander play too. The modern event deck copy goes up $613 to $899. Saviors of Kamigawa up $659 to $1099. And Modern Masters goes up $828 to $1095. Bone Miser, this is the copy from the list, just added with Modern Horizons 2, trying to find its price point. Feels pretty inflated right now, though. It goes up $836 to $1091 in theory. In reality, I'm sure you can find this card a lot cheaper. It has seen some increased commander play, though, in Asmarano, Martika Dyston, and Koldakar. Urza Lord High Artificer from Modern Horizons, still hot this week, up $882 to $69.49. This did get a reprint as a Modern Horizons 1 Retro Frame card in Modern Horizons 2, but those Modern Horizons 1 Retro Frame cards are only found in collector boosters, and they only come in foil or etch foil. I know many players would prefer just to have a non-foil copy of the card. This has been getting more modern play now in Urza's Kitchen. I think that's the main reason it's moving as much as it is. Also still in the regular Wurza builds and more in the format. Legacy, this is in Karn Echoes and more there. Vintage, it's found in Paradoxical Outcome. Beyond that, it is a very popular commander, also getting increased commander play in Lannis builds. Lightning Greaves, the one from Arch Enemy, this is inflation. The card dried up online. Obviously not really worth this much, but in theory it's going up 9.10 to 16.99 because there's just not many high-grade copies out there right now. With that being said, though, of course you know this is one of the most popular commander cards out there. It's virtually in every build, old and new. And finally for this section, we have Parallel Evolution. The copy from the list goes up $7.68 to $22. Torment goes up $15.82 to $25. This, of course, is getting increased commander play in Chatterfang builds. Plays very well with Epic Struggle there, which we saw earlier. And that takes us to the premium spotlights, and I say this every week, but I can't possibly cover all the premium cards that are going up in value across the secondary market. So keep your eyes open. Be careful of the market manipulation out there because there is a lot of it. One example, check out Mercadian Mass Foils this week. Many of them are spiking, some of them look legit. One in particular definitely is not legit. You'll know what I'm talking about if you see it. I'm sure it will give you a little bit of a laugh. With that being said, in this section of the video, I like to bring you some premium cards that feel like they're moving relatively naturally with the market. Cards that are going up because of additional gameplay or some news or preview cards that came out. Today I selected 5 of them. First we have Nut Collector, the foil from Odyssey. It goes up in theory $18.20 to $150. Now of course this is seeing increased commander play in Chatterfang decks as you could imagine. But is that price point accurate? In this section, much like the vintage section, the prices I put up here are very similar to what you might see on a price tracking website. Then I kind of go back and look at true sales and see how closely they match. Well, I have seen some high-grade copies of this sell for about $90. They have been climbing fast, and right now it is very difficult to find a copy at $90 in high grade. So I do think if this card remains hot, future sales will be higher. Will they get up to $150? Time will tell, but I do think we'll see some go for more than $90. The rest of the cards in this section are all ones we already discussed in the video. First, we have the foil copies of Spire Bluff Canal. Pre-release foil is up $12.15 to $49.75. Kaladesh foil up $18.52 to $56.99. How accurate is that? Well, both copies in high grade have sold for about $35, and that is climbing relatively fast considering that's up $10 from last week. Maybe not quite at the price points you see on the screen, but I do think this is a situation where sellers are just putting a higher price out there to stay ahead of the spike, and then they will accept any reasonable offers they get. Wheel of Fortune, the Judge foil, not really moving much percentage-wise, but I did want to showcase this card. It goes up $26.99 to $2,044.98. High-grade raw copies can sell for about $1,500 now. The last high-grade graded copy sold for only $1,525. And that was a while ago. I do think next time you see a high-grade graded copy sell, it could either make this price point or perhaps even pass it. Black Cleave Cliffs. Okay, Scars of Meriden foil at $14.82 to $53.45. The copy from Zendikar Rising Expeditions goes up $47.83 to $74.98. In reality, it looks like the Scars of Meriden foils are selling for about $45 in high grade, and the Zendikar Rising Expeditions for about $50. So again, I think this is just a situation where the sellers are trying to stay ahead of the spike. And finally, we have Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. The foil copy from Champions of Kamigawa goes up $97.56 to $150. Is that for real? Well, high-grade foils are breaking $100 now. Again, I think the $150 is just sellers staying ahead of the spike. That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. If you are from the States, I hope you have a great Independence Day weekend. And don't forget about that Flipside gaming sale that's going on through Monday as well. You could save some cash there and also support the channel. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.